But this week, we did hear from Mayor Eric Adams that said he's had enough. He's tapped out, and he's pointing the blame back at the federal government and President Biden. Here's some of what Adams had to say, Mark. Listen here.
This is a national problem that has only been exacerbated by Governor Abbott's cruel, inhumane politics, and that requires additional national solution. The federal government must take responsibility and lead on this humanitarian crisis.
Mark, what's your take on this?
The humanitarian crisis is caused by the administration. I mean, there's a reason to call this the Biden border crisis. That's not just a bumper sticker. That describes actually what's happening.
You know, one of the things that really struck me was another one of the mayors, Mayor Johnson of Denver, also receiving some migrants, smaller number than New York, but no less a strain on that city's resources. Here's his take, and then I want to get to the root of it. Listen here.
What we're asking for is that are arriving and are paroled in, come with work authorization so we can help them do what they want to do, which is support themselves and support their families.
He wants them to be able to work. And I was talking in the last hour, Mark, about this caravan that I've been in contact with, carrying a banner that says Exodus de la Pobre, which is freedom from poverty. They're just coming for jobs. And yet, I know from my resources that in the last 24 hours, there are a little more than 9,000 migrant encounters at the border. And a little over 7,000 were released with notices to appear. So if they're coming for a job, and that's what's driving them, not credible fear, and this administration favors a mass release, and now you've got mayors calling for a work authorization, that exacerbates the problem greatly. But you look at the harder numbers, what do you say?
Oh, absolutely it does. In fact, Congress, we're talking here about asylum seekers, which most of these people are either they're falsely claiming asylum or they're not even bothering to do it. But if you actually submit an asylum application, Congress said you are not allowed to get a work permit until that application, or unless that application lasts more than 6 months. In other words, if you're in a queue and waiting and 6 months come, then they give you a work permit. The whole point of that was to make sure asylum didn't become this gimmick to get into the United States, let go and get a job. This administration is right. Exactly. It's an incentive. The point is to take that incentive away. This administration is explicitly undermining the intent of Congress.
Hey, Mark, just in the last 30 seconds I've got, the Center for Immigration Studies put out a great report, very eye-opening, that 3 in 5, 59% of illegal alien households are on some form of welfare. That's troubling.
Yeah, it's on our website at cis.org. And the important point here is these people aren't coming here to live off the taxpayer, but they're coming here with low levels of skill and education that are not a good match for our kind of economy. They get jobs. They cannot earn enough to feed their own children. And so we're not going to let kids starve. We take on the burden. The point here is not to try to wall off immigrants from the welfare system, which is not possible. The point is not to let them in the first place.